I started this series all the way back in August of last year, and it's pretty safe to say for now we're finished until Witch Queen, but I just wanted to say thank you. The channel has pretty much tripled in size, and I'm really glad that a lot of you guys enjoy my videos. With that being said, I really hope you guys enjoy this compilation. Today, we're going to be covering the Ace of Spades hand cannon. You can obtain this weapon from the Monument to Lost Delights kiosk in the tower. The catalyst drops randomly in strikes and the crucible. Its upgrade is unlocked by defeating 500 enemies with the weapon. The weapon itself has the unique exotic perk Memento Mori. Reloading after a kill loads the magazine with a few extra damage bullets. It's worth noting this will also grant you radar while aiming down sights. The Ace of Spades also has Firefly, and the catalyst for the weapon will increase the damage of Firefly while Memento Mori is active. With that being said, I thought I'd put my personal opinion of the weapon at the end here, and overall it's a pretty spicy bit of kit, and I would highly recommend you picking up this weapon if you are new to Destiny. Otherwise, let me know if there's any other exotics you would like me to make a video on, and thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. Today we're going to be talking about the Devil's Ruin exotic sidearm. You can obtain this weapon from the kiosk in the tower. The exotic perk on this weapon allows it to have a variable trigger. Press and release to fire individual shots and hold to charge up a high-powered laser. It's also worth noting this is one of the few exotics inside of Destiny that actually has built-in staggering, so when you use the charge shot, this can actually stun unstoppable champions. The other unique perk on the weapon is called Pyrogenesis. Fully charging the laser refills the magazine from reserves. The weapon itself has a magazine of 15, fires at 300 rounds per minute, and also deals solar damage. Moving on to my personal opinion of the weapon. Is it fun? Yes. Would I recommend getting it? Probably not, just because there's so many better options, but if it is the last weapon you haven't got, then you might as well grab it if you want to have some fun in the Crucible. But aside from being fun, I can't really see a use for this weapon. Maybe the catalyst will make it so much better, but in its current form, I can't really recommend the Devil's Ruin. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. Today we're going to be talking about the Graviton Lance. This weapon drops from exotic engrams, and it's also randomly sold by Xur. The exotic perk on the weapon allows your second shot of your burst to have high recoil and high damage with no damage fall off. The other unique perk on the weapon, Cosmology, allows kills with this weapon to cause enemy targets to detonate and spawn void projectiles that track targets. It is worth noting that kills with Cosmology will cause Cosmology to proc again, so this weapon is really good for ad clearing. The catalyst for the weapon can be obtained randomly in strikes and Crucible, and what this will do is grant you hidden hand and also buff your range by 18. Moving on to my opinion of the weapon. The 2-round burst is very unique, and Cosmology can be very good in PvE when you're trying to clear ads. I don't know if you guys remember Escalation Protocol, but in the first couple of rounds this thing was really good for clearing through. So overall, if you do stumble across this weapon, definitely try it out, and I will also say it can actually be pretty good in PvP if you know how to use it. With that being said, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. The Huckleberry is an exotic submachine gun that came out during Warmind. To obtain this weapon, you'll just need to get lucky, as this comes from normal exotic engrams. The exotic perk on the weapon will increase your rate of fire and recoil while you're holding down the trigger. This perk also allows kills with this weapon to reload a portion of the magazine. It's worth noting this weapon also comes intrinsically with Rampage, so it synergizes really well with the exotic perk. The catalyst for this weapon will allow kills to instantly reload the entire magazine. It drops at the end of strikes and Crucible matches. The weapon itself has a magazine of 37, fires at 750 rounds per minute, and also sits in the kinetic slot. So what do I think to the weapon? Overall, this is a phenomenal SMG, and the combination of the exotic perk, Rampage, and also the catalyst can make this thing so good in PvE. So if you do stumble across this weapon, I would highly recommend trying it out, and also grind for the catalyst a little bit. With that being said, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. The Black Talon is an exotic world drop sword that came out during Forsaken. The catalyst for this weapon drops from strikes, Crucible, and also Gambit matches. The exotic perk on this weapon allow heavy attacks to fire a void projectile. What's pretty cool about this projectile is it has some light tracking, and it's also a one-shot kill inside of PvP. The catalyst for this weapon actually grants it another perk called Reversal. This perk allows shots blocked immediately after guarding to increase the damage of your projectile. So what do I think to this sword? When it first came out, I was a little bit disappointed just because the exotic swords in Destiny 1 were so powerful, but I have to admit it, this weapon has really grown on me, and it's actually really fun to use in PvP. Overall, this is more of a fun weapon, and it struggles to compete with some of the other exotic heavies. Apart from that, thank you so much for 13,000 subscribers. The channel is on a mad one, and I just want to say thank you so much for that. Today we're going to be talking about the Thunderlord exotic machine gun. To obtain this weapon you'll just need to get lucky as it drops from normal exotic engrams. The exotic perk on this weapon allows kills to generate a lightning AoE effect. This weapon also has lightning rounds. This perk allows the weapon to fire faster and become more accurate the longer the trigger is held. It's also worth noting continuous damage will generate the lightning strikes effect. The weapon itself deals arc damage, has a magazine of 62 and fires at 450 rounds per minute. So what do I think to this weapon? Overall, the AoE lightning effect is great for PvE and makes this weapon really good for ad clearing. The only problem is there's just so many better alternatives. With that being said, when we finally get the catalyst, maybe this weapon could become much better. Anyway, thank you for watching and goodbye. Since the recent buff, I thought it was about time to do a video on the Vex Mythoclast. To obtain this weapon, you'll just need to get lucky as it drops randomly at the end of the Vault of Glass raid. The exotic perk on the weapon allows it to fire in full auto mode by default. The other unique perk on the weapon allows you to build stacks of overcharge after defeating enemies. Once the weapon is fully overcharged, you can actually swap to a linear fusion rifle firing mode. The catalyst for the weapon drops from a secret quest inside of the Vault of Glass, and it will grant you a bonus perk called Calculated Balance. The perk states, while in full auto mode, final blows of this weapon grant bonus damage, accuracy, and stability for a short duration. Right, so what do I think to this weapon? With the recent buffs, this thing has become so much better and actually really fun to use. So I can now say with confidence, definitely go after the Vex Mythoclast and even go after its catalyst. It's a great weapon. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching, please subscribe and goodbye. Today we're going to be talking about the Symmetry. Now this is an exotic scout rifle that released during Season of the Dawn. The weapon itself fires at 260 rounds per minute, has a magazine of 20 and also deals arc damage. The exotic perk on the weapon allows it to fire in full auto and also allows you to swap to an arc seeker mode. The other unique perk on the weapon allows precision hits to build up dynamic charge. Swapping to arc seeker mode increases the damage and partially reloads the magazine based on the number of charges. It's worth noting the catalyst for the weapon will increase the maximum number of dynamic charges by 5. As you can see from the gameplay, these arc seekers can be really strong in the right situations. So what do I think to the weapon? Overall, it's a solid scout rifle and it can actually be really fun, especially with that alternate firing mode. And to be completely honest with you, I really enjoyed using this thing in PvP as well. With that being said, thank you so much for 15,000 subscribers. I'm really hoping I'll be back to regular uploads soon, and goodbye. Arias Vow is an exotic hand cannon that was introduced in Season of the Undying. You can now buy this weapon from the exotic kiosk in the tower. The exotic perk on the weapon allows it to have a high zoom scope and it will also pierce barrier champions. The other unique perk on the weapon grants bonus damage while aiming down sights on the opening shot of attack. It's worth noting this bonus is actually preserved if you hit an elemental shield or deal precision damage. The catalyst for the weapon will increase the magazine size and also holstering the weapon will automatically reload it after a short time. So what do I think to this weapon? Overall for PvE this thing is fantastic and I can't recommend it more if you are a new player and you haven't quite got it yet. I do think it's worth mentioning only a handful of weapons in the game actually have inbuilt disruptions like this, so the shield piercing is really strong. With that being said, thank you so much for watching, thank you so much for 17,000 subscribers, and goodbye. The Crimson is a burst fire exotic hand cannon. To obtain this weapon you'll just need to get lucky as it comes from regular exotic engrams. The hand cannon itself fires at 415 rounds per minute, has a base magazine of 14 and also sits in the kinetic slot. The unique perk on the weapon allows kills to heal the wielder and precision kills to also refill the magazine. The catalyst for the weapon is just a world drop, so again you're going to need to get lucky, but the catalyst itself will actually increase your range. So what do I think to this weapon? Overall it's a solid consistent workhorse weapon, but I will actually just say it can be so much fun in PvP. If you do manage to get this gun then definitely try it out. I feel like the health regeneration is often overlooked and it's one of the strongest aspects of the weapon. With that being said, it's all peace and love, and don't worry, your boy is back.
He's not the guy. I am.
The Wardcliffe Coil, or if you're really OG, the Dubious Volley, is an exotic heavy rocket launcher. Obtaining this weapon is pretty simple, you're just going to need to get lucky in regular exotic engrams. The weapon itself deals arc damage, has a magazine of 1, and also sits in the heavy slot. The exotic perk on the weapon allows it to fire a volley of arc rockets. The other unique perk on the weapon allows it to automatically reload on ammo pickup. The catalyst for the weapon drops from strikes, and it will improve the tracking of your projectiles. So what do I think to the weapon? Overall, a pretty solid rocket launcher and also really fun to use. I will just say this is a very strong pick in PvP, especially if you're not running an exotic in the primary or secondary slot. If you're in trials or something and you manage to get some heavy ammo, I don't want to say it's a free kill, but it's a pretty easy kill with this weapon. With that being said, thank you so much for watching, thank you so much for 17,000 subscribers, and goodbye. The Legend of Acrius is an exotic heavy shotgun. You can now obtain this weapon from the kiosk in the tower, but I think it's worth mentioning this did actually used to be the Leviathan raid weapon. The exotic perk on the weapon allows it to fire a blast of arc energy which overpenetrates targets. The other unique perk on the weapon allows your radar to see further away. The catalyst for the weapon drops from nightfall strikes, and it will increase your reserves, magazine, and also reload speed. I've always been a big fan of this weapon, and I'm a massive fan of the idea of a slow firing, high damage shotgun. The only problem is I really wish this thing was in the secondary slot. I feel like if there's a way they could do that, it would make it so much more fun to use. With that being said, thank you for watching, please subscribe, and goodbye. The Malfeasance is an exotic hand cannon that was introduced during Forsaken. You can obtain this weapon from an exotic quest. If you want to know more about that, then I do have a video on the channel, but the weapon itself fires at 180 rounds per minute, has a magazine of 14, and also sits in the kinetic slot. The exotic perk on this weapon allows it to fire slugs which burrow into enemies. If you stack enough of these, it will actually cause an explosion. The other unique perk on this weapon is called Taken Predator, and this will give you bonus damage against Taken and also Gambit invaders. So what do I think to this weapon? Overall, I think it can be really fun in PvP and PvE, but this weapon does feel underpowered. I think it could do with a buff or even just a really good catalyst. With that being said, what do you guys think to this weapon? Anyway, thank you so much for watching, thank you so much for 18,000 subscribers, and goodbye. Today we're going to be talking about the Monarch. This was an exotic bow that launched during Black Armory. You can obtain this weapon from an exotic quest. The weapon itself has a base draw time of 684, sits in the energy slot, and deals void damage. The exotic perk on this weapon allows arrows fired quickly after a full draw to become poison arrows. It's worth noting that precision hits with poison arrows will spread the poison to nearby enemies. So what do I think to this weapon? Obviously it's held back or drawn back, being that it's a bow, but it can actually be really strong in PvP and PvE. And if I'm completely honest, this is probably my favourite exotic bow. It just feels like it doesn't get enough love as it doesn't have any ornaments or a catalyst. With that being said, what do you guys think to this weapon? Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. Today we're going to be talking about the Chaperone, which was an exotic shotgun introduced during Forsaken. You can obtain this weapon from an exotic quest. The weapon itself fires at 70 rounds per minute, has a base magazine of 6, and sits in the kinetic slot. The Roadborne perk on the weapon allows precision kills to briefly increase handling, range, and precision damage. So what do I think to this weapon? Honestly, this is probably one of my favourite PvP exotics ever added to Destiny, and I really hope we get a catalyst for it soon. I don't know how true this last bit is, but I've been told some of the larger ornaments actually increase the range of the weapon, so someone in the comments can correct me on that. With that being said, let me know which exotics you would like me to cover next. We're so close to 20,000 subscribers, so thank you so much for all the support, and goodbye. The Cerberus +1 is an exotic kinetic auto rifle. To obtain this weapon, you're just going to need to get lucky as it comes from normal exotic engrams. The weapon itself fires at 360 rounds per minute and has a base magazine of 31. The exotic perk on this weapon allows it to fire from all of its gun barrels at the same time. The other unique perk allows aiming the weapon to reduce the spread of its projectiles. The catalyst for this weapon is a completely random world drop. It allows the weapon to have a more close range secondary firing mode. So what do I think to this weapon? Although it sounds a bit gimmicky on paper, this is actually a really solid auto rifle. So if you do manage to get this weapon, then definitely try it out. With that being said, we've just hit a huge milestone for the channel, so thank you so much for that. And I can confirm I have started working on the 20k special, so I guess you've got that to look forward to. Izanagis Burden was a quest exotic from Black Armory. You can now obtain this weapon from the kiosk in the tower. The weapon itself fires at 90 rounds per minute, has a base magazine of 4, and sits in the kinetic slot. The exotic perk on the weapon allows you to consume your magazine and load it with one round that has additional range and damage. The catalyst for the weapon drops randomly from playlist activities. The catalyst will increase the damage of honed edge when 4 bullets are consumed. So what do I think to this weapon? I don't really know where to start. This thing is phenomenal for single target damage, it's really fun to use, it looks cool, and the exotic perk allows it to pretty much one-shot anything in PvP. With that being said, thank you so much for watching, and to everybody who's looking forward to the 20k special, we are just waiting on some equipment, so it might be a little bit delayed. The Sunshot is an exotic red war hand cannon that can be obtained randomly through normal exotic engrams. The weapon itself fires at 150 rounds per minute, has a base magazine of 12, and deals solar damage. The exotic perk on this weapon allows it to fire explosive rounds and to also highlight targets that it damages. The other unique perk on this weapon allows enemies killed by Sunshot to explode. The catalyst for this weapon drops randomly from strikes and also crucible matches. This will increase both the range and the stability of the weapon. So what do I think to this weapon? I haven't really got much to say here, it's a solid workhorse weapon and it's good anywhere you take it. I did just want to mention at the end here, there is actually a Sunshot ghost if you're interested in that sort of thing, but thank you so much for watching and goodbye. The Wildline Zero was one of the first exotic swords ever added to Destiny 2 and you can obtain it from the kiosk in the tower. The exotic perk on the weapon allows you to launch a heavy blink attack after sprinting with the weapon for a short duration. It's also worth noting this sword does actually have Assassin's Blade. This will boost your movement speed after getting kills with the weapon. The catalyst for this weapon drops randomly after defeating any non-guardian enemies with swords. The catalyst for the weapon is very simple, it will just reduce the activation time of the exotic perk. So what do I think to this weapon? I can't say it's my favourite exotic sword, and when it first came out I was a bit disappointed, but it can be really fun in certain situations. The problem with this weapon is it's just outclassed by most other swords. With that being said, this is still a really fun sword to use, it just feels like it needs a bit of a buff. Anyway, thank you so much for watching and goodbye. The Hardlight is an exotic energy auto rifle. You can obtain this weapon randomly from normal exotic engrams. The weapon itself fires at 600 rounds per minute and has a base magazine of 49. The exotic perk on this weapon allows rounds to overpenetrate targets, have reduced damage fall off, and to also ricochet off hard surfaces. It's worth noting rounds that do ricochet will have increased damage. The other unique perk on the weapon allows you to cycle through void, solar, and arc damage. I do just want to mention here, you no longer need to reload to get this effect. There's actually this pretty cool animation that cycles through the damage types. The catalyst for this weapon drops randomly from nightfall strikes and will actually increase the stability of the weapon. So what do I think to this weapon? Overall, a solid auto rifle in all game modes, but I do just want to highlight PvP here. If you ever get the catalyst, then definitely try this thing out in the Crucible. With that being said, please subscribe, join the Discord, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. The Trinity Ghoul is an exotic arc bow released during Forsaken. To obtain this weapon, you're just going to need to get lucky as it comes from regular exotic engrams. The exotic perk on this weapon allows it to fire arrows that split after they've been released. It's worth noting, aiming down sights and fully drawing the bow will decrease the spread. The other unique perk on the weapon allows precision kills to grant the next shot chain lightning capabilities. The catalyst for the weapon drops randomly from strikes, gambit, and crucible matches. The catalyst itself makes this weapon phenomenal in PvE. The lightning rod perk will now trigger whenever an enemy is killed via arc damage. So what do I think to this weapon? Once you have the catalyst for this weapon, it's amazing for ad clearing. Definitely pick up the Trinity Ghoul, you won't regret it. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching and goodbye. Today we're going to be talking about an exotic pulse rifle called Vigilance Wing. You can obtain this weapon randomly from normal exotic engrams. The weapon itself fires at 530 rounds per minute, has a base magazine of 30 and sits in the kinetic slot. The exotic perk on the weapon allows it to fire a 5-round burst. It's also worth noting, if a nearby ally is killed, you will gain health regeneration and also increased movement speed. The other perk on the weapon improves weapon performance and recovery when you're the last living player on your fire team. The catalyst for this weapon will actually drop randomly from the Crucible. This simply grants the weapon with full auto trigger system. Overall, this is a really fun weapon to use in PvP. I would definitely recommend trying it out, especially if you have that catalyst. I don't normally talk about ornaments in these videos, but apparently the Saint 14 ornament actually has much cleaner sights for this weapon. With that being said, thank you so much for watching and goodbye. Today we're going to be talking about an exotic energy auto rifle called Tommy's Matchbook. If you want this weapon, then you can actually buy it from the kiosk in the tower. The weapon itself fires at 720 rounds per minute, has a base magazine of 72 and deals solar damage. The exotic perk on the weapon allows sustained fire to overheat the weapon, increasing damage but also burning the user. The other unique perk on the weapon reduces overheat damage while not aiming down sights. The catalyst for this weapon drops from a quest and grants the perk Heat of the Moment. While ignition trigger is active, your health recovers much faster. So what do I think to this weapon? Overall, this is a pretty gimmicky weapon and does require some building around to reach its full potential. With that being said, it's a very fun weapon to use. It's not at the top of my list for the kiosk weapons, but it's still really fun. So anyway guys, thank you so much for watching and goodbye. Today we're going to be talking about the Leviathan's Breath. This is a heavy exotic bow. If you haven't already got this weapon, then you can purchase it from the kiosk in the tower. The weapon itself has a draw time of 1328 and also deals void damage. The exotic perk on this weapon allows it to fire heavy bolts that will actually stun unshielded combatants. It's also worth noting this weapon can stagger unstoppable champions. The other unique perk on the weapon allows fully drawn shots to actually have a concussive blast that will knock enemies back. The catalyst for this weapon drops randomly from powerful enemies killed by this bow. This catalyst will simply increase your inventory size from 10 to 15. Overall, this is a very fun and unique weapon. I will just say, if you haven't got many of the kiosk weapons, then I wouldn't put this at the top of your list, but it's still a really fun weapon to use. With that being said, what do you guys think to this weapon? Anyway, thank you so much for watching and goodbye. The Monte Carlo is an exotic auto rifle that drops randomly from regular exotic engrams. The weapon itself fires at 600 rounds per minute, has a base magazine of 43 and sits in the kinetic slot. Dealing damage with this weapon reduces your melee cooldown and grants a chance to fully charge your melee with each kill. The other unique perk on this weapon allows increased damage from melee kills and kills with this weapon. It's also worth noting melee kills grant ammo for this weapon. Overall, you can't really go wrong with the Monte Carlo. It's a great auto rifle that's really good for melee builds. With that being said, what do you think this weapon's catalyst should be? Anyway, thank you so much for watching and goodbye. The Sleeper Simulant is an exotic heavy linear fusion rifle. This thing used to have a really long quest, but now you can just obtain it from the kiosk in the tower. The base weapon without the catalyst will have a magazine of 4 and a charge time of 1024. The exotic perk on this weapon allows it to fire a laser which overpenetrates targets and ricochets off hard surfaces. The catalyst for this weapon will drop randomly at the end of Nightfall strikes. This catalyst will actually grant the weapon with 2 perks. Accelerated coils will speed up the weapon charge and deeper pockets will increase the ammo reserves. So what do I think to this weapon? Overall, this weapon is an absolute powerhouse in PvE, especially with those fusion rifle buffs. I will say, if you do dare to take this weapon into PvP, you might be pleasantly surprised, as I found this weapon to be really good. Right, actually, a lot of people get annoyed with me when I don't say these weapons have returned from Destiny 1, so yes, the Sleeper Simulant did return from Destiny 1. Today, we're going to be covering a highly requested hand cannon, The Last Word. If you haven't already got this weapon, then you can purchase it from the kiosk in the tower. The weapon itself fires at 225 rounds per minute and has a base magazine of 8. Another hidden stat that's definitely worth mentioning is the recoil. This weapon is actually maxed out at 100. The exotic perk on this weapon allows it to fire in full auto, and hipfire shots deal bonus precision damage while increasing reload speed and accuracy. Unfortunately, this weapon hasn't yet got a catalyst. So what do I think to this weapon? In terms of PvE, there's definitely better weapons to use, but for PvP, this weapon can be absolutely phenomenal. Although I have heard people say they've had different experiences on console versus PC, but I'm a massive fan of this weapon. With that being said, what do you guys think to The Last Word in Destiny 2? Anyway, thank you so much for watching and goodbye. 1000 Voices is an exotic heavy fusion rifle. You can obtain this weapon from the Last Wish raid. The weapon itself has a charge time of 1000, a magazine of 4, and it also deals solar damage. The exotic perk on this weapon allows it to fire a laser beam. The other unique perk on the weapon allows it to superheat targets upon impact, causing delayed explosions. Overall, this weapon is really strong in PvE, and it can be so good at melting down bosses. As for PvP, the explosions can actually be really good for multi-kills. I do understand this is a raid weapon, so it's quite hard to get, but I would definitely recommend chasing this weapon. With that being said, feel free to join the Discord in the description, but thank you so much for watching and goodbye. Divinity is an exotic arc trace rifle and in my opinion probably one of the most difficult weapons to obtain in Destiny 2. To obtain this weapon you'll need to complete a quest in the Garden of Salvation raid. The exotic perk on this weapon allows sustained damage to envelop targets in a field of weakness that also stuns them. It's also worth noting this will disrupt overload champions. The other unique perk on the weapon allows sustained damage on a single target to create a burst of damage. The weapon itself fires at 1,000 rounds per minute, has a magazine of 94 and sits in the energy slot. So what do I think to this weapon? Divinity is a fantastic support weapon and I'm never going to really complain if someone in my fire team is using this weapon. The Judgment exotic perk and the built-in overload make this thing so good in most PvE situations. With that being said, what do you guys think? Is this the hardest exotic to get in the game? Anyway, thank you for watching and goodbye. The Wish Ender is an exotic kinetic bow. You can obtain this weapon from a Forsaken exotic quest. The exotic perk on the weapon states, while aiming down sights with a fully drawn bow, enemies behind walls are highlighted. The other unique perk on the weapon allows arrows to damage targets on entry and exit. It's worth noting one shot can overpenetrate multiple targets. Overall, this is a pretty mediocre weapon, but it can be really fun in PvP, especially with that highlight ability. If you're a fan of bows, you'll love this weapon, and I will say it's really good to pair with spectral blades. With that being said, if this weapon does get a catalyst, what do you think it should be? Anyway, thank you for watching and goodbye. The Telesto is an exotic fusion rifle that's becoming pretty infamous in Destiny due to its game-breaking history. To obtain this weapon, you're just going to need to get lucky as it comes from regular exotic engrams. The weapon itself, without the catalyst, will have a base magazine of 4 and a charge time of 780. The exotic perk on this weapon allows projectiles to attach and detonate with a delayed void blast. The other unique perk on the weapon allows multi-kills to immediately reload your kinetic and energy weapons. The catalyst for the weapon will drop randomly from legendary and master lost sectors. This catalyst will simply just increase your ammo reserves. Overall, this is a fantastic weapon that has great damage, no range fall off, and you don't even really need to reload in PvE. I will just say as well, this is also an amazing PvP fusion rifle, definitely try it out in the Crucible. With that being said, thank you so much for watching, thank you for all the support on this series, and goodbye. Today, we're going to be talking about an exotic fusion rifle called the Jotun. If you haven't already got this weapon, then you can purchase it from the kiosk in the tower. The weapon itself has a magazine of 5, sits in the energy slot and deals solar damage. The exotic perk allows you to charge up a tracking shot that explodes and burns on impact. Another little thing for PvE that's definitely worth noting is this weapon does actually have shield disorient. Unfortunately, this weapon hasn't got a catalyst yet and I'm not really sure it needs one, but what do you guys think it should be? Overall, a very cheesy and effective weapon in PvP and a very fun weapon in PvE. I will say this is a very fun weapon to use in PvP, but it does tend to wind me up a little bit when I get killed by it. Anyway, thank you so much for watching and goodbye. The Lord of Wolves is an exotic shotgun released during Forsaken. Currently, to obtain this weapon you'll need to complete spider bounties, but come Witch Queen I think it will be added to the kiosk. The weapon itself fires at 640 rounds per minute, sits in the energy slot and deals solar damage. The exotic perk on this weapon allows it to fire a short range burst of solar damage. The other unique perk on the weapon allows you to swap to a longer, more powerful burst. The catalyst for the weapon drops randomly from Crucible, Strikes and Gambit matches. The catalyst for the weapon will increase reload speed while Release the Wolves is active and increase stability when it's not. Overall, a pretty gimmicky weapon that can be quite fun in PvE. As for PvP, it does tend to suffer from a little bit of an ammo problem. Anyway, what do you guys think to this weapon? Thank you so much for watching and goodbye. Today, we're going to be talking about an exotic pulse rifle called Bad Juju. If you haven't already got this weapon, then you can obtain it from the kiosk in the tower. The weapon itself fires at 450 rounds per minute, has a magazine of 27 and sits in the kinetic slot. The exotic perk states, kills refill the magazine, increase damage for a short duration and grants super energy based on the strength of strings of curses. A little thing that's worth noting is full auto is actually built into this exotic perk. The catalyst for this weapon will drop randomly from Strikes, Crucible and Gambit matches. The catalyst itself will extend the duration of String of Curses. Overall, this weapon is fantastic in PvE and I would highly recommend picking it up if you don't already have it. I know some people aren't too keen on pulse rifles, but this thing's got full auto, built-in rampage, extra super energy and also kills will refill the magazine. With that being said, I am really busy with uni uni at the moment, so the uploads might be a bit slower, but peace and love, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. Today, we're going to be talking about the Bastion, which was an exotic fusion rifle released during Season of the Dawn. If you don't already have this weapon, then you can obtain it from the kiosk in the tower. The weapon itself has a charge time of 780, a magazine of 4, and sits in the kinetic slot. The exotic perk on the weapon allows it to fire 3 spreads of kinetic slugs. The other unique perk on the weapon allows it to stagger unstoppable champions. Overall, a solid fusion rifle that's more geared towards PvP due to the sheer amount of damage you can output with the kinetic slugs. To be completely honest, I hate being killed by this weapon, but there's no denying it's probably one of the best super shutdown weapons in the game. With that being said, I do have a long form video in the pipeline, and I'm also making another game, but thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. The Wither Horde is an exotic kinetic grenade launcher which you can purchase from the kiosk in the tower. The exotic perk on this weapon states projectiles fired by this weapon blight the target or nearby area on impact. The other unique perk on this weapon allows blighted targets to take damage over time and blight the nearby area on death. The catalyst for this weapon will increase handling, and holstering this weapon for a short time will automatically reload it. Overall, this weapon is absolutely ridiculous, and I can't stress how good it is in both PvP and PvE. The Wither Horde absolutely shreds bosses and is also amazing for area denial. If you haven't already got this weapon, then I would highly recommend picking it up. With that being said, what do you guys think to this weapon? Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. Today, we're going to be talking about an exotic submachine gun called the Taraber. If you don't already have this weapon, then you can obtain it from the kiosk in the tower. It's worth noting this did used to be a raid weapon, so it will require Spoils of Conquest. The exotic perk on this weapon allows it to store power when dealing or receiving damage. Once at full power, you can hold reload and your damage and rate of fire will increase substantially. The other unique perk on the weapon allows dealing continuous damage to extend the duration of the exotic perk. The weapon itself fires at 750 rounds per minute, has a magazine of 30, and deals solar damage. Overall, this is a really good weapon in both PvP and PvE. If you were a fan of the Recluse SMG, then I would definitely recommend chasing this weapon. With that being said, welcome to all the new people to the channel, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. Today, we're going to be covering an exotic scout rifle called the Mida Multi-Tool. You can obtain this weapon from the kiosk in the tower. The exotic perk on this weapon is pretty simple, it will just boost your movement speed. The other unique perk on the weapon allows your radar to stay active while aiming down sights. The catalyst for the weapon will drop randomly from the Glory playlist. The catalyst itself will grant the weapon the No Distractions perk. The weapon itself fires at 200 rounds per minute, has a magazine of 16, and also sits in the kinetic slot. Overall, a solid scout rifle, and I always tend to crack this thing out whenever I'm trying to speedrun something. Anyway, what do you guys think to this scout rifle? Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. Today, we're going to be talking about an exotic sidearm called the Traveler's Chosen. You can obtain this weapon from the kiosk in the tower. The weapon itself fires at 300 rounds per minute, has a base magazine of 15, and also sits in the kinetic slot. The exotic perk on this weapon allows final blows to grant stacks of Gathering Light. Holding reload will consume these stacks, granting melee, grenade, and class ability energy. The other unique perk on the weapon allows each stack of Gathering Light to improve this weapon's reload, handling, and target acquisition. In terms of the catalyst for this weapon, it drops randomly from strikes, crucible, and gambit matches. This will grant the weapon full auto, osmosis, and also an increased magazine. Overall, a solid sidearm, especially when you build up a couple of stacks of Gathering Light, this thing can be really fun. So, have you guys got this weapon, and what did you think to the catalyst? Overall, I think it's one of the more strong catalysts in the game. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Today, we're going to be talking about one of Destiny's most infamous weapons, the Thorn. If you don't already have this weapon, then you can obtain it from the kiosk in the tower. The exotic perk on this weapon allows rounds to pierce targets and deal damage over time. It's also worth noting kills with this weapon will leave behind remnants. The other unique perk on the weapon allows absorbing a remnant to strengthen Mark of the Devourer and also partially refill the magazine. The weapon itself fires at 150 rounds per minute, has a magazine of 9, and also sits in the kinetic slot. Overall, the exotic perk makes this weapon so good in both PvP and PvE. I will just say I love the visual style of this weapon, and it has some of the coolest ornaments in the game. So if you don't already have it, then I highly recommend picking up this weapon. It's worth mentioning this exotic does actually synergize with the Necrotic Grip Warlock arms. With that that being said, what do you guys think the catalyst should be for this weapon? Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. Today, we're going to be talking about an exotic sidearm called the Cryosthesia 77K. If you don't already have this weapon, then you can obtain it from the kiosk in the tower. The unique perk on this weapon allows final blows to enable a charge shot for a short duration. Targets hit by this shot are instantly frozen at the cost of this weapon's entire magazine. The weapon itself fires at 260 rounds per minute, has a magazine of 13 and deals stasis damage. The catalyst for this weapon grants the perk Cold Efficiency. Shattering a frozen target refills this weapon's magazine from reserves. Overall, this is a pretty fun sidearm that can be quite good with certain stasis builds. With that being said, what do you guys think to this weapon? Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. Today, we're going to be talking about an exotic sniper rifle called the Whisper of the Worm. If you haven't already got this weapon, then you can obtain it from the kiosk in the tower. The weapon itself has a magazine of 3, deals solar damage, and also sits in the heavy slot. The exotic perk on the weapon grants it higher base precision damage. Also, rapidly landing 3 precision hits will refill the magazine. The catalyst for the weapon will increase your reload speed and also grant you the perk Whispered Breathing. Aiming this weapon for a brief moment grants bonus range and precision damage while it remains zoomed. Overall, currently this weapon is pretty mediocre, but in the past it's been an absolute PvE monster. If you are thinking of getting this weapon, then keep in mind I don't think you can actually get the catalyst anymore. I'm pretty sure Bungie will add this catalyst back to the game soon, but correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. With that being said, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. The Polaris Lance is an exotic energy scout rifle. If you haven't already got this weapon, then you can obtain it from the kiosk in the tower. The exotic perk on the weapon allows precision hits to return ammo to the magazine. Landing 4 precision hits loads a delayed solar explosive round for your next shot. The weapon itself has a magazine of 14 and deals solar damage. You can obtain the catalyst for this weapon from strikes, crucible and gambit matches. The catalyst itself will simply grant the weapon Dragonfly. Overall, this is a solid PvE scout rifle that I would highly recommend picking up. With that being said, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. Today, we're going to be talking about an exotic pulse rifle called the Outbreak Perfected. This weapon is now obtainable through the kiosk in the tower. The weapon itself fires at 450 rounds per minute, has a magazine of 36 and also sits in the kinetic slot. The exotic perk on the weapon creates Siva nanite swarms on rapid hits and precision kills. The other unique perk on the weapon allows it to deal more damage to enemies based on the number of Siva nanites attached to them. The catalyst for the weapon will increase the nanite damage, and enemies that die with nanites attached to them will generate additional nanites. Unfortunately, I don't think you can actually get this catalyst, but hopefully Bungie had a new way to get it soon. Overall, this is an absolutely phenomenal pulse rifle for both PvP and PvE. I will say, if you are thinking of getting this weapon, the catalyst is absolutely amazing, and it's just such a shame there's not a way to get it at the moment. With that being said, what do you guys think to this weapon? Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. Today, we're going to be talking about the exotic Sturm hand cannon. You can obtain this weapon from the kiosk in the tower. The weapon itself has a magazine of 12 and fires at 120 rounds per minute. The exotic perk on the weapon allows kills to fill the magazine of the equipped energy weapon from reserves. The other unique perk allows kills with the Drang sidearm to reload this weapon and overflow a bonus damage round into the magazine. The catalyst for the weapon drops randomly from enemies on Nessus. The catalyst itself will increase the range and handling of the weapon. Overall, this is a really strong hand cannon, and when paired with Drang, it can be so much fun in PvP and PvE. So what do you guys think to this weapon? Personally, I found it really fun in PvP. With that being said, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. Today, we're going to be talking about the Lamina exotic hand cannon. You can obtain this weapon from the kiosk in the tower. The weapon itself fires at 150 rounds per minute and has a magazine of 12. The exotic perk on the weapon allows kills to leave behind remnants. Absorbing a remnant converts your next hipfire shot into an ally-seeking noble round and partially refills the magazine. Using a noble round on an ally heals them and grants both you and them a weapon damage bonus for a short duration. The catalyst for the weapon drops randomly from strikes, crucible and gambit matches. The catalyst itself will grant you 2 remnants per final blow instead of 1. Overall, this is a really fun and unique support weapon that I would definitely recommend picking up. This weapon is slightly more geared towards PvE, but it can also be really good in the Crucible. With that being said, thank you so much for watching and goodbye. Duality is an exotic energy shotgun, and yes guys, you can obtain it from the kiosk in the tower. The exotic perk on the weapon allows it to fire a pellet spread and hipfire and a single high damage slug while aiming. The other unique perk on the weapon allows pellet final blows to grant a stacking precision damage and reload speed buff. It's also worth noting precision hits with slugs will extend the duration of this buff. The catalyst for the weapon will increase your range and magazine. Overall, this weapon can be pretty good in PvE, but where it really shines is in the Crucible. I've had so much fun with this shotgun in PvP, and I would highly recommend picking it up. With that being said, have you guys got this weapon? What do you think to it? Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. The Truth is an exotic heavy rocket launcher, which you can obtain from the kiosk in the tower. The exotic perk on the weapon allows your rockets to have tracking, and aiming down sights will lock onto targets. This weapon also has a perk called Grenades and Horseshoes. This allows rockets fired from the weapon to detonate when they're in close proximity to their targets. The weapon itself has a magazine of 3 and deals void damage. Overall, a great PvP and Gambit rocket launcher. Unfortunately, this weapon doesn't have a catalyst yet, but what do you guys think it should be? Anyway, thank you for all the support this year, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. The Fourth Horseman is an exotic shotgun available from the kiosk in the tower. The weapon itself has a base magazine of 4 and deals arc damage. The exotic perk on the weapon allows it to fire in full auto and to also have an increased rate of fire. The other unique perk on the weapon allows each successive shot to have more damage and more spread. The catalyst for the weapon isn't currently obtainable but should be returning in Witch Queen. This catalyst will add an extra shot to the magazine and also increase reload speed. Overall, a really unique and fun weapon, and if you build around it, it can be really strong in PvE. I will just say I love the design of this weapon and some of the ornaments are really cool. With that being said, join the Discord, subscribe, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. The Rat King is an exotic sidearm available from the kiosk in the tower. The weapon itself fires at 300 rounds per minute and has a magazine of 15. The exotic perk on the weapon allows it to fire in full auto and to become stronger when nearby allies also have it equipped. The other unique perk on the weapon allows reloading after a kill to grant you invisibility. The catalyst for the weapon will improve aim assist and recoil direction. It will also refresh your health on the invisibility trigger. Overall, a really unique weapon that can be so much fun when your whole fire team are using it. With that being said, what do you guys think to this weapon? Have you got the catalyst yet? Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. Tqs Divination is an exotic bow available from the kiosk in the tower. The exotic perk on the weapon allows hip firing to fire multiple tracking projectiles. Targets marked by these projectiles explode upon death or when struck by another Sacred Flames explosion. The other unique perk on the weapon allows arrows fired while aiming down sights to cause Sacred Flames to instantly detonate. Where this bow really gets interesting is with the catalyst, which grants the perk Causality Quiver. Perfectly drawn arrows that detonate Sacred Flames also increase arrow damage. Striking targets unaffected by Sacred Flame instead refreshes Causality arrows duration. Overall, this is one of the most unique exotics in Destiny 2 that has a really fun gameplay loop. In the right hands with the catalyst, this weapon can be absolutely phenomenal. With that being said, what do you guys think to this weapon? Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. Ruinous Effigy is an exotic trace rifle available from the kiosk in the tower. The weapon itself has a base magazine of 94 and deals void damage. The exotic perk on this weapon allows final blows to collapse victims into void transmutation spheres. The other unique perk on the weapon allows transmutation spheres to be picked up and wielded as a weapon by you or your allies. These transmutation spheres have a light attack and also a heavy slam attack which will drain all their ammo. It's also worth noting guarding with these things creates a field which damages nearby enemies. The catalyst for the weapon increases the weapon's damage against targets damaged by transmutation spheres. Overall, a really fun and unique trace rifle that I would definitely recommend trying out. With that being said, what do you think to this weapon? Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. The Agar Scepter is an exotic stasis trace rifle available from a quest. The exotic perk on this weapon allows it to generate a slowing burst around defeated targets. The other unique perk on the weapon allows stasis final blows to transfer ammo from this weapon's magazine from reserves. The catalyst for the weapon grants you the perk Will Given Form. Drain super energy, overflowing the magazine and empowering the beam with bonus damage, and the ability to slow and freeze targets until the magazine or super energy runs out. It's worth noting this can only be activated when your super energy is full. Overall, a really solid weapon that has great synergy with stasis subclasses. I would also highly recommend getting the catalyst for this weapon as it just makes it so much fun to use. With that being said, thank you so much for watching and goodbye. The Risk Runner is an exotic SMG which is currently available from a quest. The weapon itself fires at 900 rounds per minute, deals arc damage and has a magazine of 41. The exotic perk on the weapon states, while taking arc damage this weapon becomes more powerful and resists incoming arc damage. Kills extend the duration of this buff. The other unique perk on the weapon allows shots fired to have a chance to chain lightning and return ammo while arc conductor is active. The catalyst for the weapon will simply just grant you an extra 30 range, although I will say just being able to generate orbs with this weapon is really good. Overall, a fantastic weapon at base, but once you proc that exotic perk, this weapon is phenomenal. With that being said, did you guys get this weapon from the Red War campaign or have you got it from the new quest? Anyway, thank you so much for watching and goodbye. The Hawk Moon is an exotic hand cannon currently available from a quest, but will be moving to the kiosk in the future. The exotic perk on the weapon states, final blows and precision hits with Hawk Moon grant stacks of paracausal charge. The final round in the magazine deals bonus damage based on the number of stacks. This weapon also has transformative, so future drops of the weapon will have random rolls. And if you did want a quick bit of column 3 perk advice, rangefinder, opening shot and killing wind are definitely my favourites. The catalyst for the weapon will increase the magazine and also grant you the perk Hunter's Trance. This grants increased handling, reload speed and weapon range based on the number of stacks of paracausal charge. Overall, a fantastic hand cannon in both PvE and PvP. I also loved this weapon in Destiny 1 and it is near and dear to me as it was my first breakout video on YouTube. Anyway, it's crazy to see how far we've came since then. Thank you so much for watching and goodbye. Sweet Business is an exotic world drop auto rifle released during the Red War. The weapon itself deals kinetic damage, fires at 360 rounds per minute and has a magazine of 150. The exotic perk on the weapon increases accuracy when firing from the hip. Also, picking up special or heavy ammo immediately reloads the weapon. The other unique perk on the weapon allows sustained fire to boost both range and rate of fire. The catalyst for the weapon grants the perk Serious Business. When this weapon is fully spun up, the flinch from incoming damage is greatly reduced. Overall, this is a really fun and unique weapon. You can also tell whoever made this thing put a lot of love into it, as the animations, design and just aesthetic of the weapon is just so cool. With that being said, what do you guys think to the Sweet Business? Anyway, thank you so much for watching. The Prometheus Lens is an exotic world drop trace rifle. The exotic perk on the weapon allows it to fire a solar trace beam that generates a damaging heat field that grows while the weapon continues to fire. The other unique perk on the weapon allows kills to reload the weapon from reserves, extending the beam's duration. The weapon itself has a magazine of 100, fires at 1000 rounds per minute and deals solar damage. The catalyst for the weapon will simply just increase the handling and stability. Overall, a solid trace rifle that's really fun to use in PvE. With that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'm quite interested how many of you guys have the laser tag emblem. I'm sure someone in the comments can explain that one. The Forerunner is an exotic Halo styled quest sidearm. This exotic has insane base stats and it's probably closer to a hand cannon than a sidearm. The exotic perk on the weapon is called Full Stop. It grants extended range, heavy caliber rounds, full auto with increased rate of fire and increased precision damage. The other unique perk allows tapping the trigger to grant this weapon less recoil and improved accuracy. Then we have the catalyst. For several seconds after a final blow, you can consume part of your ammo reserves, converting your next thrown grenade into a fragmentation grenade. Now, this literally gives you a brand new Halo styled grenade and it's actually pretty strong. Not to mention, this works on top of your current grenade. Overall, this weapon is a fantastic addition to the game and works great in both PvP and PvE. The custom sights, animations and unique catalyst make this a really fun weapon to use. With that being said, I've got a lot of university work at the moment, so content might be a bit slower, but thank you so much for watching. The Tractor Cannon is an exotic heavy world drop shotgun. The weapon itself fires at 80 rounds per minute, deals void damage, and sits in the heavy slot. The exotic perk on the weapon allows it to fire a powerful pulse which pushes enemies away. It's also worth noting this will suppress their abilities and also make them more vulnerable to all incoming damage. The other unique perk on the weapon allows damaging opponents to temporarily increase speed and handling. The exotic catalyst for the weapon will simply just increase your ammo reserves. Overall, the tractor cannon is a fantastic PvE weapon that can also be so much fun in PvP. With that being said, what do you guys think to the tractor cannon and do you still use it? Anyway, thank you for all the recent support on the channel, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. Dead Man's Tale is an exotic quest scout rifle. The weapon itself fires at 120 rounds per minute, has a base magazine of 14, and sits in the kinetic slot. The exotic perk on the weapon allows chaining precision hits to grant bonus damage and faster reload speeds. This weapon also has transformative, which allows it to have random rolls. In terms of column 3 perk advice, Vorpal weapon is really good for taking people out of their supers. Otherwise, Killing Wind, Snapshot, and also Outlaw are great perks. The catalyst for the weapon will increase hipfire rate of fire and remove hipfire accuracy penalties. Overall, this is a fantastic weapon in all game modes and I would definitely recommend chasing it. With that being said, have you got a good roll of this weapon? Thank you so much for watching, join the Discord, subscribe, and goodbye. Today, we're finally covering the Anarchy, which is an exotic grenade launcher available from the kiosk in the tower. The weapon itself fires at 150 rounds per minute, has a magazine of 6, and deals arc damage. The exotic perk on the weapon allows grenades to stick to surfaces and chain arc bolts to other mines. It's also worth noting this weapon also has moving target, which increases your movement speed and target acquisition while aiming down sights. This weapon is so much fun in PvE and you can do some crazy things with the exotic perk. Overall, the Anarchy is a great weapon that I would definitely recommend chasing. With that being said, thank you so much for watching and goodbye. The Fighting Lion is an exotic energy world drop grenade launcher. The weapon itself fires at 90 rounds per minute and sits in the energy slot. The exotic perk on the weapon allows grenade projectiles to bounce off surfaces. It's also worth noting this weapon uses primary ammo, and with the recent update you're not going to run out anytime soon. The other unique perk on the weapon allows direct hits to deal more damage to enemy shields. Dealing damage increases your reload speed, and rapid kills against grenade damaged enemies will refill your magazine. The catalyst for the weapon increases the reload speed and grants you another unique perk. After this weapon fires, kinetic and power weapons gain a brief period of increased handling and accuracy. Overall, in the right hands, this is a fantastic weapon and one of the few weapons in the game that has quite a high skill ceiling. If you can master this weapon, it's absolutely phenomenal in both PvP and PvE. With that being said, we're nearly done with every exotic in the game. Thank you so much for watching and goodbye. Eyes of Tomorrow is an exotic raid rocket launcher. The exotic perk makes the weapon capable of tracking and firing at multiple targets simultaneously. The other unique perk on the weapon states, killing 4 or more combatants in a single volley increases the damage of the next volley. If you were wondering, this damage increase is about 40%. Overall, this is a fun and unique weapon that's borderline broken inside of the Gambit playlist. Unfortunately, this rocket launcher doesn't have a catalyst yet. Also, shout out to Spectre in my Discord for the gameplay in this video. With that being said, we've got about 10 weapons left in this series, so I'm going to try my best to get it all done. Thank you so much for watching and goodbye. The Cloud Strike is an exotic quest sniper rifle released during Beyond Light. The exotic perk on the weapon allows precision final blows to generate a lightning bolt at the target's location. The other unique perk on the weapon allows rapid precision hits to create a lightning storm at the point of impact. The weapon itself fires at 140 rounds per minute, has a magazine of 7, and deals arc damage. This sniper rifle is so much fun to use and it's pretty good wherever you take it, but in PvP this thing really shines and it's fantastic for getting multi-kills. Overall, it's definitely worth grinding out those Empire hunts and getting this weapon. With that being said, what do you guys think the catalyst is going to be for this weapon? Thank you so much for watching and goodbye. The Merciless is an exotic Red War world drop fusion rifle. The exotic perk on this weapon allows non-lethal hits with projectiles to make this weapon charge faster until the wielder gets a kill. The other perk on the weapon allows reloading immediately after getting a kill to increase weapon damage for a short time. The weapon itself has a charge time of 900, a magazine of 8, and it also deals solar damage. The catalyst for the weapon will simply just increase both your range and stability. This fusion rifle rifle has a very unique perk and it can be a viable DPS option. Unfortunately, it's just outclassed by other exotics that do its job better. With that being said, what do you guys think to the Merciless? Thank you so much for watching and goodbye. The Borealis is an exotic world drop Red War sniper rifle. The weapon itself fires at 72 rounds per minute and has a magazine of 5. The exotic perk on the weapon allows you to cycle between solar, arc and void damage. The other unique perk on the weapon allows breaking an enemy shield to transfer 1 bullet from reserves. Also, breaking a shield with a matching energy type will grant bonus damage for the rest of the magazine. This also works in PvP with Guardians in their supers. The catalyst for the weapon will simply just increase the reload speed. Overall, a great sniper rifle, especially for PvE when you're dealing with lots of different types of shields. With that being said, what do you guys think to the Borealis? Thank you so much for watching and goodbye. The Cold Heart is an exotic Red War trace rifle. The exotic perk on the weapon allows it to fire a steady cold fusion powered laser. The other unique perk on the weapon allows Cold Heart's laser to exponentially deal more damage the longer it remains on a target. The catalyst for the weapon will increase both reload speed and stability. I've always found the Cold Heart to be a fun and unique weapon that can actually dish out some serious damage. Overall, I would recommend picking this thing back up, and it can actually be surprisingly good in PvP too. With that being said, thank you for all the support recently. Please feel free to join the Discord if you're new. Thank you so much for watching and goodbye. Skyburners Oath is an exotic energy world drop scout rifle. The exotic perk states, this weapon lobs large explosive seeking slugs when fired from the hip. When aiming down sights, the projectiles travel fast and straight with high damage and low rate of fire. The other unique perk on the weapon allows it to fire in full auto, deal extra damage to Cabal, and to penetrate phalanx shields. The catalyst for this weapon will simply just increase your range. Now, I don't know what to say here because this is regarded as one of the worst exotics in the game. Honestly, the weapon can be pretty fun with its alternative fire mode, but it's in desperate need of a buff. So what do you guys think? Is this thing as bad as people say, or can it be good with the right build? With that being said, thank you so much for watching and goodbye. Before I start this video, I just want to say this weapon is in desperate need of both a catalyst and an ornament. The Wave Splitter is an exotic world drop trace rifle. The exotic perk on this weapon allow it to have 3 power levels that oscillate while the trigger is held down. The other unique perk on the weapon allows collecting an orb to grant a short period of maximum power that starts with an automatic reload. Overall, this is a really fun weapon and I love the oscillating power concept. I just wish this weapon would get some more love. With that being said, what do you guys think to the Wave Splitter, and what do you think the catalyst should be for this weapon? Anyway, thank you so much for watching and goodbye. The Prospector is an exotic world drop grenade launcher. The weapon itself fires at 165 rounds per minute, has a base magazine of 8 and deals arc damage. The exotic perk on the weapon allows you to fire grenades that detonate simultaneously when you release the trigger. It's also worth noting these grenades will stick to surfaces and also set targets on fire. This weapon also has full auto trigger system, which makes spamming grenades that much easier. The catalyst for the weapon will grant the perk Deeper Pockets and also increase the blast radius. This weapon is more geared towards PvE and it can be quite fun, but the problem is there's just some better alternative heavies out there. Overall, a fun and unique weapon that could be really good if we ever get a grenade launcher buff. With that being said, thank you so much for watching and goodbye. The Two-Tailed Fox is an exotic world drop rocket launcher. The exotic perk on the weapon allows it to fire 2 rockets, 1 void and 1 solar, and they can actually track the same target. The other unique perk on the weapon allows the void rocket to suppress enemies and the solar rocket to cause damage over time. The tracking on this weapon is actually really good and it can be so much fun inside of PvP. Overall, this is a pretty fun and unique rocket launcher that I would definitely recommend trying out. With that being said, what do you guys think the catalyst should be for this weapon? Thank you so much for watching and goodbye. No Time to Explain is a returning Beyond Light exotic pulse rifle. The exotic perk on the weapon allows precision shots and shots against combatants slowed or frozen by stasis to return to the magazine. It's also worth noting this weapon does have full auto trigger system. At 10 stacks of the exotic perk, a small portal will open shooting bullets from an alternate timeline of this weapon, and this portal functions quite a bit like an arc soul. It's worth noting precision hits will extend the duration of the portal. The catalyst for the weapon will make the time portal shoot more frequently. Overall, this is a really fun and versatile weapon that I would definitely recommend picking up. With that being said, thank you for all the support recently, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. Today, we're going to be covering the Arbulus Delinear Fusion Rifle. The weapon itself has a charge time of 533, a base magazine of 5, and it also deals kinetic damage. The exotic perk on the weapon allows it to deal massive damage to enemy shields. It's also worth noting this perk has shield piercing built in, allowing it to disrupt barrier champions. The catalyst for this weapon will increase your magazine, handling, and grant the perk Genesis. Breaking a shield with this weapon fills the magazine from reserves. Energy weapons regenerate ammo on hit when matching the damage type of the shield. Overall, this weapon is fantastic for both PvP and PvE. So what do you guys think to this weapon? Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. The Darcy is an exotic world drop heavy sniper rifle. The exotic perk on this weapon allows aiming at enemies to highlight them, showing their health and other information. The other unique perk on the weapon allows increased precision damage and target acquisition while the exotic perk is active. The catalyst for this weapon will simply just increase its stability. Overall, this is a pretty mediocre exotic and it could really do with a buff, but I will say it's really useful for damage testing. I really do think heavy snipers need to be looked at. They could really do with a rework or a buff. With that being said, it's still a pretty cool weapon and I would recommend trying it out. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. The Jade Rabbit is an exotic world drop scout rifle. The weapon itself fires at 150 rounds per minute, has a magazine of 10, and sits in the kinetic slot. The exotic perk on the weapon allows chain body shots to gain bonus damage on your next precision shot and return ammo to the magazine. It's also worth noting this weapon does have Zen moment, so causing damage with this weapon will increase its stability. The catalyst for the weapon will further increase its stability. Overall, this weapon is held back by where scout rifles are at the moment, but I remember this thing being so much fun in momentum control. With the orb changes coming, do you think it would be fair to buff some of these weaker catalysts? With that being said, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. Today, we're going to be talking about the Lorentz Driver. This is an exotic energy linear fusion rifle. The exotic perk on this weapon allows it to mark targets with an automated targeting system. Final blows on marked targets generate telemetry patterns. Collecting 3 of these patterns without dying will grant the weapon a damage bonus. The other unique perk on this weapon allows precision final blows to create an implosion that pulls in nearby targets and damages them with an additional detonation. The catalyst for the weapon grants an enhanced radar. Also, while the weapon has 3 telemetry patterns, EM anomaly detonations no longer require a precision final blow. Overall, this is a phenomenal weapon in both PvP and PvE, and I would highly recommend trying it out. With that being said, what do you guys think to this weapon? Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. Salvation's Grip is a Beyond Light stasis grenade launcher. The exotic perk on the weapon allows its projectiles to create stasis crystals and freeze nearby targets. The other unique perk on the weapon allows charging it to increase its freeze radius and the amount of stasis crystals created. The weapon itself fires at 120 rounds per minute and has a magazine of 8. Overall, this weapon can be quite good in PvE with stasis builds, but personally I found this weapon quite underwhelming and actually quite finicky to use in the first place. Anyway guys, am I using this thing wrong? What do you guys think to this weapon? Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. The Heir Apparent is an exotic Guardian Games heavy machine gun. The exotic perk on this weapon allows aiming to spin up the weapon, and you can only fire once the weapon is fully spun up. The other unique perk on the weapon allows spinning up the weapon to grant you an arc shield as long as you're at full health. The catalyst for the weapon increases the arc shield's durability and partially reloads the magazine if it's destroyed. Overall, this is a great weapon and it can be so much fun in PvP, especially if you've managed to grab that catalyst. This machine gun is really cool and unique, and I would highly recommend trying it out. With that being said, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. The Deathbringer is a Shadowkeep Quest exotic rocket launcher. The exotic perk on the weapon allows it to fire remotely detonated projectiles that drop void orbs on combatants. The other unique perk on the weapon is called Dark Descent, and it states, the further a void orb falls, the more powerful its detonation becomes. The catalyst on the weapon increases how quickly Dark Descent reaches its full potential. This rocket launcher is actually really good in both PvP and PvE, and in the right scenario, this thing can deal out some serious damage. I would highly recommend picking up this weapon and also grinding out its catalyst. With that being said, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. Soros Regime is an exotic world drop auto rifle. The exotic perk on the weapon allows the bottom half of each magazine to deal bonus damage, and it has a chance to return health on kill. The other unique perk on the weapon allows holding down the trigger to increase the rate of fire. It is worth noting you can actually swap this perk for dual speed receiver. When aiming down sights, weapon rate of fire slows while damage increases. The catalyst on the weapon will increase the chance for kills to regenerate health. Overall, the Soros Regime is an iconic workhorse weapon that I've brought into PvP countless times. I would highly recommend bringing this weapon into the Crucible. With that being said, thank you so much for watching and goodbye. The Colony is an exotic world drop grenade launcher. The exotic perk on this weapon states, this weapon's grenades are insectoid robots that chase down targets and explode when close to them. The other unique perk on the weapon is essentially auto-loading holster, and the magazine will refill while the weapon's not equipped. The catalyst for the weapon will increase the magazine size. I will just say this has one of the most unique projectiles in the whole game, and they literally do seek out enemies, and they're so strong inside of PvP. With that being said, thank you so much for watching and goodbye. The Galahorn is one of Destiny's most iconic weapons, and it's returned with the anniversary event. The exotic perk allows rounds fired from this weapon to split into tracking cluster missiles upon detonation. The other unique perk on the weapon increases handling and reload speed while standing near allies. It's also worth noting firing this weapon grants Wolfpack rounds to nearby allies who are also wielding non-exotic rocket launchers. The catalyst for the weapon will increase the magazine size, and final blows with Wolfpack rounds spawn a faster, more powerful missile at the target's location. Overall, the Galahorn has came back very strong in Destiny 2, and I would highly recommend picking it up. With that being said, what do you guys think to the Destiny 2 version of this weapon? Thank you so much for watching and goodbye. The Xenophage is an exotic Shadow Keep machine gun. The exotic perk on the weapon allows it to fire high-powered explosive ammunition. The weapon itself fires at 120 rounds per minute, has a magazine of 13, and deals solar damage. It's also worth noting this weapon does have rangefinder, so aiming it will increase its range. Overall, this is a solid heavy machine gun that can deal some serious damage inside of PvE. With that being said, what do you guys think to this weapon? Thank you so much for watching and goodbye. The Lament is an exotic quest beyond light sword. The exotic perk on the weapon allows blocking to rev the blade. This grants the weapon increased damage and shield piercing on all attacks. You gain more stacks of this buff by dealing damage with revved attacks. Additional stacks of this buff increase damage and damage resistance of heavy attacks. The other unique perk grants health while dealing damage. Overall, a very useful PvE sword that can deal some serious damage. With that being said, what do you guys think to this weapon? Thank you so much for watching and goodbye. The Queenbreaker's bow is an exotic heavy linear fusion rifle. The exotic perk on the weapon allows it to fire a long-range precision arc bolt that blinds enemies on hit. The weapon itself has a base charge time of 633 and a magazine of 5. It is worth noting on this weapon you can actually change out the sights and also the column 3 perk. Here you can choose between quick draw and hip fire grip. The Queenbreaker is just such a fun weapon to use, and I really think it deserves to be moved into the secondary slot. So currently I think that is every single exotic weapon in the game, so I'm going to say the outro one last time. With that being said, thank you so much for watching and goodbye.